All right, guys, what's up? It's I think we're back to week 9 or week 10 of doing this. Starting to get into kind of the weeds of the playoffs now with 3A, 4A starting this week. But how you guys doing this week?
Good. What's going on, Gavin? How are you?
What's up, Gavin?
What's up, guys? Yeah, good.
The cicadas are out.
Yeah, they are. It's getting crazy. But yeah, I'm excited. 3A, 4A starts this week. 1A, 2A, they're finishing up regional championship games today, I know. I think probably a few from potential rainouts maybe, but a lot of the good stuff's happened so far. I know we just updated the Power 25, so Drew's going to kind of take us through that.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. And now that we're into playoff time, this should be the last Power 25 update until after the 3A, 4A state finals conclude there in early June. So heading into the playoffs here, these rankings will stay the same. We won't update them for a few weeks. And number one, as it's been for pretty much the last couple months here, Nazareth sticking right there. Haven't lost. I was telling you guys before we jumped on here, is I can't remember the last season where a team went undefeated. I started doing this in 2015, and it has not happened since I've been here, at least at the 3A, 4A level. But Nazareth had a 3-0 week. They stay at number one. They're 34-0. New Trier made a statement this last week. They're 29-3, and they've rattled off a bunch of wins over their last 20+ games. St. Lawrence, they're up one spot to number 3. They're 29-5. They went 3-0 on the week. Playing good baseball. I just got my eyes on them on Friday night. Joliet West is up to number 5, the highest point they've been all season. They are 31-4. They went 5-0 on the week, up 2 spots. And the two teams that made the biggest statements this last week and really are climbing up towards the top of the list and the highest they've been all season is Lincoln Way Central and Normal Community. And Normal Community, they're both up 7 spots. Normal Community jumped from 13 to number 6. They went 2-0 on the week. They're 31-3 on the season. They took care of Providence Catholic on Friday. They drove down to Normal to play Normal Community. I know there was some rain that came through the area, so there was some field switching going on, but they ended up getting the game in, and Normal Community won 11-1. I know Normal was able to throw a lot of their good arms, Gavin, and you were there to see it, so yeah. Go ahead.
And actually just wanted to mention that 31 wins for them is their single season record for wins in a season, so big shout out to Normal Community this year.
Love it. We both mentioned them too last week as teams to watch in our 4A going into the playoffs, teams we liked because they can really, really pitch, and they're getting all kinds of production throughout the lineup. And I mentioned Lincoln Way Central. They entered the rankings for the first time a couple weeks ago, and all they've been doing since is impress. They've rattled off a bunch of wins in a row. They've beaten some really good teams this past week. They went 3-0. They knocked off Lincoln Way East, Bolingbrook, and also took down Joliet Catholic. So they're playing their best ball at the right time right now with the playoffs looming. St. Charles North is up 1 spot. They're 25-5-2. We've got Morris. They're at number 13. They're 23-3. They had a 1-0 week, so kind of a quieter week for them, but they did move up the list. And then Burlington Central down at number 19. So they're 22-9 up to number 19. Those are just some noteworthy teams that were kind of rising through our list here in this update. But I know we've got a beefy podcast we're trying to get to. 1A, 2A playoffs is fully in the mix right now. Just got done with regional championships on Saturday, and we've got 3A, 4A regional action starting up this week with all kinds of sectionals to look through, teams to watch, and we're going to dig right in here. So one sectional that just kind of jumps off the page at the 3A level, we'll start at 3A, is that Sycamore sectional. And Sycamore in general is a team you saw, Tyler, earlier in the year.
Yeah, they're probably going to be, if not the team to beat, one of the main teams to beat in this sectional. It's an older lineup. They went to state last year, so they're definitely the stage shouldn't be too big for this group. They also have Teague Hallahan on the mound who can run it up to 90, 91. So that's going to be a tough arm for any of those teams in the sectional to go up against.
They have Kyle Preble. He can pitch it for him too. I saw him up to 89, so that's just another arm that they got. at their disposal. But I mean, Kyle Hartman, Davis Collie, um, Kyle Preble also can swing the bat for him. So they just got some physical dudes throughout that lineup. They definitely passed the eye test for sure. And then moving on to Montini, um, that's a team that I've liked throughout the year. I mean, they are one of the more dangerous lineups in the state. They got Cash Campbell, Quinn Boyer, AJ Manganello, Drew Church. The list goes on. Who did I miss, Drew? I know you probably want to get in on that.
No, I think long story short with Montini is they can hit. At least they have prospects on their roster that can swing the bat. And if they get some pitching, to me that's a scary lineup. You got some lefties that you got to battle with. You got some righties in their lineup, so they've got a nice mixture. So depending on if they see a righty or a lefty, I don't think it's the end of the world. And if they can just limit some teams' offense, I think they're going to be in the mix. Um, Burlington Central's right there. Bennett Academy. Um, anybody want to jump in that's seen them? I know Diego saw Gino Zagoric and Bennett early in the season.
Yeah, I saw them down at the Kickoff Classic. It honestly may have been their first game of the year. Zagoric was on the mound. They also have Jake Reifenberg, who's going to Northwestern, left-handed pitcher. Positionally, man, they played the game hard. They played an awesome game against Washington. They're an older group. They're strong behind the plate. They're good in center field. They run. They hit. They're athletic. Like, I believe they're the 1 seed in the sectional, and I could see them making some noise with those two big arms on the mound if they can put it together positionally.
They potentially, if they get through their regional championship, their regional semis, in the regional championship, they would face off with the winner of St. Francis and Marmion. And I feel like St. Francis is a group that's just kind of a sleeper. Had another really good year. They've been really good every year for the past handful of years. And I would not sleep on that group. So, Bennett will have their hands full. In that same little grouping there, Burlington Central with the 2 seed, I think they're a team to watch. They're playing really well. They're just going to be battle tested playing in that Fox Valley. That Fox Valley is full of 4A powerhouses, really, with Huntley in there and McHenry's ranked in our Power 25. And then when you get to go down and play in that 3A playoffs, to me, I think it gives you a little bit of a boost. It's kind of like that Father McGivney boost that they get down there playing in the 1A playoffs, yet they play a bunch of 2A, 3A, 4A schools throughout the regular season. So to me, that will only help Burlington Central. Brady Gilroy down there. They've got Michael Person that'll be leading them on the mound. Brady Gilroy's a spark plug position player for him. I know he does some pitching as well. Chase Perouzik. They've got Jake Johnson behind the plate. I'm sure Elliot Alisea is a dynamic two-way prospect. He can run. He's got power. So they're definitely a club to keep an eye on. I don't know if I missed anything there, so feel free to chime in if anybody has anything.
No, the only thing I'd add is, Perouzik, Person, and Alisea all do stuff on the mound and in the lineup for the Rockets. So it's definitely a versatile and athletic group to watch.
All right, yeah, and looking at this Washington sectional now, I think the first thing for me that jumps off the table, just looking at it, is this first game, Joliet Catholic and Pontiac. Pontiac's record is not outstanding by any means, but they have Henry Brummel, who's a really talented arm going to Indiana. He's one of the top right-handed pitchers and just players in the senior class for us. He's up to 92 or 93, I think is what we've seen him up to. He's got really good off-speed pitches too. So, I mean, that'll be a tough matchup for JCA in round one.
Yeah. For a team that's been top 3 in our Power 25 all season, for them to get the 1 seed and have to face one of the best senior arms in the state certainly is tough. But I mean, you're going to have to face those guys, to win the state title anyway at some point throughout the playoffs. But having to face that in round one certainly is a tough matchup for JCA, but something that I'm sure that they're looking forward to. Coach Voss over there, he'll have his guys ready. They love the stage, they love the big matchups. But I mean, you saw Pontiac earlier, Gavin. They faced Monticello. They've already proven that they can, beat a good team. We've really liked Monticello. They were ranked in the Power 25, facing a good arm when Henry Brummel was going against them. So,
Yeah.
that definitely headlines that sectional to me.
Yeah, I think
For sure.
for Pontiac, anytime Brummel's on the mound, that kid is. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in the state. Like I think he's more than capable of taking down any team. The number one team in the state to number 25. I don't think it matters. He's a really talented arm.
Strikes me as a super sectional type of matchup in round one.
Yeah, totally.
So we'll see what happens there. I mean, just looking through this group, there's a lot of good teams in here, and definitely down in your neck of the woods, Gavin, that I know you've seen plenty, but Dunlap sticks out to me. East Peoria has had a good year. Morton's there, Washington. So that entire Morris is down there. So it's going to be a tough group to
me,
get
it looks
through.
like some of the top Mundelein conference teams here for that Peoria area. When you got Dunlap, East Peoria, Morton, and Washington. I mean, for Dunlap, to me, they got two really good arms in Jackson Tresenreiter and Davis Weeks. And then they have Jack Piper, too, who's going to Carroll. And I have not seen him this year, but, the stat lines that I've seen from him, he just throws strikes. He gets out. He seems like a winner. And, I mean, when you have three good arms like that, and I know they've got a few others, too.
You couldn't be more spot on with Piper.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him in the past 2 to 3 years. He was young when I saw him, but he moved really well, and it's 3 pitches for strikes. It's really, really clean. I don't know what the velo is these days. When I saw it, it was upper 70s, and I still liked him. So definitely just a quality arm there, for sure.
And looking at, East Peoria, too, they just have a talented team. They've continued to find ways to win. They've got R.J. Duncan, who's been pretty good for them on the mound this year. I think he's kind of leading that staff. And then Morton, to me, I think what stands out is just their pitchers, their depth. They've got Ryan Schaffner, who's an uncommitted 25, Tanner Spangler, who's going to Heartland, and then Noah Settles is going to Spoon River. He's kind of a low 80s guy, but he throws strikes, got a good breaking ball. And then Washington, kind of the same thing. Just another all-around team. They've got some bats that are going to find ways to get on base. Got a couple interesting arms in Gavin Laurence and Carter Prina, and I know they've got more than that. But yeah, they're just a couple interesting teams in that sectional from the Mid-Illini Conference that I know all 4 of those teams have had a lot of success in their conference play this year. They've kind of gone back and forth between who's winning. They split a lot of series,
and that's what good conferences are, Gav. Like, they beat up on each other, and it's unfortunate for them. It hurts their records, but there's a couple good conferences in the Chicagoland area where the same thing happens up here, and definitely can see that down there. A lot of those teams split throughout the regular season. And Morris is right there. They've got this 2 seed down there. They'll match up with LaSalle Peru. I mean, we obviously think a lot of Morris. They're ranked 13 right now in this updated list. They're 23-3 on the season. So to me, they are the team to beat outside of Joliet Catholic. But they're going to have tough matchups. We just saw Ottawa. Ottawa can swing the bat a little bit. I know Adam Swanson, that would be the regional championship matchup if Ottawa got past Plano, and if Morris won as well. But a lot of good teams in that little sectional, and I think there's 6 different teams that could potentially come out of that thing, which speaks to the depth of that grouping. Anybody else in 3A down here that sticks out to you? I kind of like that Grays Lake sectional, the Grays Lake Central sectional, with Lake Forest and Crystal Lake South matching up in a round 1 matchup. Like, I think that's a sneaky good first round matchup. Crystal Lake South has had some ups and downs this year, but Coach Bogda's groups always seem to be ready come playoff time. Grays Lake Central, good every year. Good once again. They've got the 2 seed down there. I know Tyler saw, St. Viator earlier this season. They face off with Crystal Lake Central, and I've seen Crystal Lake Central's given some teams, some tough matchups here. So it could be interesting. I know Viator was kind of a scrappy group that we could see doing some things. But any teams sticking out in this group in here for you guys?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Viator, I mean, with Brandon Thompson behind the plate, he's one of the more talented sophomore catchers in the entire state. And they also have Brian Hatch, who's going to Valpo. He's a senior. Those are just 2 physical right-handed bats right in the middle of their lineup. So they could give probably any pitching staff some trouble on the right day.
And another team that I see down here at the bottom, but they play in the Fox Valley and they've got arms, is Cary Grove. And anytime you've got arms, I think you have a chance to win there with Charlie Tazzy and Ethan Dorsey's. To me, it's just no team's going to want to go up against that because those are two guys that can really, really pitch. Charlie Tazzy, he's got multiple pitches for strikes. He competes. And then you got Ethan Dorsey's, who's just got some of the livelier stuff in the class. And if he's on, he's going to be as tough as anybody to beat. And just moving down the 3A bracket here, Gavin, I'm going sectional by sectional, just looking at some of these matchups, some of the, tougher sectionals to get through. And that Evergreen Park sectional sticks out to me. St. Laurence has the 1 seed, rightfully so. I think they are a very, very talented group. They are 3rd in our Power 25 right now. Lamont's also in the mix here. They've had an up and down year. They've beaten some good teams. They've lost some games they probably shouldn't have, but I think they're a sneaky group that is always going to be well coached. You got St. Rita as the 2 seed. Oak Forest is down here as the 3 seed, and I think they're a sneaky group too. We've talked about them a couple times, and I know we haven't seen them in person. Well, actually, we did get a extremely brief look at them down at the Kickoff Classic, but probably not a good enough look to really, tell us how good they truly are. But they're there at the 3 seed, and yeah, just some good teams here to take note on. Rita has 12 losses on the season, but they play in that CCL Blue. They've got some really, really good wins on the year. I think they've won 22 games as well. They've got some firepower in that offense, and to me, if they can get pitching, outside of Louis Sisto, I think that is an extremely dangerous group. But obviously, you got to pitch it. You got to pitch it come the playoff times. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and then looking at this Rochester sectional, a couple teams for me that stand out is Glenwood. Obviously, their big selling point is Cam Appenzeller. I've seen him multiple times this year. D saw him the other day, and I know Drew, you saw him earlier at the Kickoff Classic. But he's a dominant arm, kind of like some of these other guys that we have mentioned, like a Brummel. When any team matches up with Glenwood, if Appenzeller's on the mound, I'm not going to say that they're not going to win, but it's going to be tough. Like, he is going to throw strikes. You're going to swing and miss likely when he throws his breaking ball, his fastball. It's a tough look for other teams.
And we've talked about him a lot because his prospect status has just skyrocketed. Since last fall at the Battle for the Arch, an event we run down in the St. Louis area, he came out and kind of put on a show, and he was in the middle of golf season and has not slowed down. Every time we've seen him, he continues to get better. I saw his first outing of the year, and the velo is pretty similar to what we've been seeing, like kind of touching 90, pitching in the upper 80s with extreme ease. When I saw him, the breaking ball was good. It was a good pitch. It had action. It had depth. But to me, because his prospect status has risen so much, we've been out to see him a bunch. Like, we've been trying to get as many looks at him as possible. And I know Diego just got our most recent look at him, and the breaking ball seems to be what is really, really ticking up for him and becoming a separator. And I think, Diego, I'm going to give you the floor here too, because you were talking about his stats just for the whole season. So I know you saw him really, really good, and then his stats were extremely impressive. So yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it was my first time seeing him in game since that Battle for the Arch, which was a gameplay event, but it was only 2 innings. He came out against O'Fallon, man, absolutely shoved it. Complete game, 1 hit, 1 walk, 12 punch-outs. On the year, 2 earned runs in 38 1/3 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts, only 10 walks. I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of good arms in the last 3 years, and I think this kid matches up with anybody, and that includes like the Blake Wolters, the Xander Muths of the world. The ceiling is as high as it gets, and honestly, I think for Glenwood, like they to me are a different team when he's on the mound. Like, I saw them play against in Edwardsville's little Case for Cancer tournament. He was not pitching, and just kind of the energy around them was not the same. Like they came out against O'Fallon fired up. They put up a 4 spot in the 3rd inning. Like he sets the tone on the mound. The kid's got a presence to him. Um, it's a frontline guy. It's a frontline guy, and like I would not want to see him any day because the stats say it enough. He's been shut down all year, and they're starting to swing it well. Like Crew Erickson hit a 3-run bomb for them on Friday. Creighton Reinke, left-handed hitter, hits in the 4-hole for them. Jace Easley hits in the 2-hole, plays a good third base. Like Michael Lucas can pick it for them at short. They're good behind the plate. Colton Knadler, a sophomore who was on varsity last year and handled Parker Detmers as a freshman. Mason Marshall is back and playing center field for them. Like that's a team that's starting to find their groove at the right time. And obviously the history behind the Glenwood program, we know it's a winning one. So with Appenzeller on the mound, with how they're playing, I would watch out for Glenwood in this sectional.
Yeah, and just looking at what they did last week, they went 3-1, and in their 3 wins, they didn't give up a single run. Pretty impressive stuff. So with that headliner arm there leading the way, hard to not pick them as the favorite in that sectional. And right down there though is Muhammad Seymour, Gavin.
Yeah, I haven't seen them personally yet. I know Deeks has, but I mean they've got Mason Orton, who I know we've heard really good things about this spring. I think things are starting to tick up for him, velo wise. And then Gavin Bailey's another name that we saw this winter too, who's been absolutely tearing it up from what we've seen from afar on Twitter and things like that, just from videos. And I know he's hitting a lot of home runs for them. So a couple good guys, and I know they got a lot more. Deeks, I know you've seen them.
Yeah, and you talk about a headliner arm. Like Mason Orton's a guy that last year as a sophomore was one of their best arms as their number 2. And like obviously Blake Wolters was there. And he is now elevated into that staff ace role and has been absolutely dominant this year. Sub 1.5 ERA, fills up the strike zone, tall, lanky, projectable lefty, 3 pitches, all for strikes. That's a frontline guy. And if the velocity uptick is real and like he's pitching in that upper 80s band now, like that's a guy that's going to beat anybody or has the chance to beat anybody on any given day. And you touched on Gavin Bailey. I feel like I see a Gavin Bailey home run on Twitter every 4 days. Muhammad's a team like they've been winning a lot. They lost in the sectionals last year. They have a chip on their shoulder. Obviously, Blake Wolters is gone. They lost some other key pieces from that team last year, but Glenwood and Muhammad matching up. That's a team. That's a matchup that would be awesome to see. And 2 of the top teams in this sectional.
And
yeah, totally.
Lincoln also got the number 1 seed down there at the bottom of that sectional, and they're a team that has Wyatt Mammon, big physical righty with some arm strength, and if he's on, he could be a tough one to beat. They also have Colby Glenn, just from a position player standpoint, going to Lincoln Land. They've got Trey Schilling, just a team to know, and Rochester's down there as a 3 seed. Another team that's always well coached. Go ahead, Diego.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Rochester because
Yeah.
Jack Swaney, big physical left-handed bat, hits in the middle of the order. I've seen him park a few homers this spring. Going to NIU, also pitches for them. They got Jory Myron, Eli Carlson. Like you touched on them being well coached. They will not be a tough out. Aiden Nieves is a physical senior that'll pitch in the low to mid 80s for them. Like they're going to be tough. This is going to be a tough sectional. It'll be interesting. Whoever comes out of it's definitely going to be battle tested.
And make sure your mic is still on, because just moving down this list here, we're getting into some Southern Illinois action, Diego. You got Highland. You got Highland as the number 1 seed. Well, I know you've seen Highland a couple times. Some names on that roster that I'm familiar with as well, but I haven't seen them. I just get to hear about it all from you. But Chase Knable, there's some other guys on that roster that you really like as well.
Yes, Highland, a team that was in our Power 25 at one point this year. Obviously, they are always well coached. They always do a good job. They always find ways to win. Chase Knable's shoving it per usual. Trent Clemens, Braxton Decker, Jake Ottensmeyer, Declan Riggs. We've talked about Highland a bunch. Them earning the 1 seed is rightfully so, and they like to muddy the waters. I've tabbed them as the Gorilla Bulldogs. They play their style of baseball. They bunt, they run, they hit and run, they slap the ball around. Like they play defense. They don't give up runs. they're going to be a tough out for anybody. Effingham is a program that made it to 3A state last year. Obviously, Josh McDevitt was the frontline guy there. Camden Raditz is having a big season for the Hearts, leading the way there at shortstop, hitting in the 3-hole. Colton Webb is their starting catcher, left-handed bat, also pitches for them. You got Muscuda, who we've seen a bunch this year. They're also in our Power 25. They have a frontline arm in Austin Musso. We've given the Indians a bunch of love this year, the way that they play the game. And then Triad is also in this little sectional here, and they got two big arms in Brady Kuhn and Drew Winslow leading the way for them. So very similarly to that Glenwood and Muhammad sectional, whoever comes out of this one they're gonna earn it. It's gonna be battle tested. There will be no shortage of tough opponents for those teams.
Yeah, that could be, if it all, matches up how it could, the number 2 versus number 3 in the regional championship game with Muscuda versus Triad. And I know there's no love lost there. They play each other throughout the year, and you could see a really good pitching matchup in that one.
And I actually
Yeah.
want to keep going. I
Yeah.
want to keep going here because you got Marion, who's also in this sectional. They're the 1 seed. They're having a great year. And if we have a 4-5 matchup here between Mount Vernon and Centralia, there's a potential that Trevor McClure and Marion line up in the regional championship game. Trevor McClure, one of the more talented 2027s in the state. Saw him earlier in the year, up to 89, big-time arm, big-time athlete. He broke the single-season stolen base record at Mount Vernon as a freshman, which I believe was a record that had held for 30 or 40 years prior to him breaking it. And then you look at this Waterloo-Freeburg game. Waterloo has a big-time arm, senior Nate Phillips, going to St. Charles Community College. He's been dominant for them this spring. Upper 80s to low 90s arm. If they save him and can get past Freeburg without him, throwing him against Highland in that regional championship game, that's going to be a tough out for the Bulldogs. So there's no shortage of good teams in this sectional. Like, whoever comes out of it is definitely going to earn it.
Seems like a lot of good 3A teams to watch here throughout the playoffs, Gavin. We made our way through, some of the more noteworthy teams here in 3A playoff action and some of the matchups and what we could see. But you guys ready to talk some 4A? All right, let me click over to 4A here.
I mean,
we've got plenty of notes
first team
down.
that I'm noticing here is, obviously Naz, number 1 in the state. They're undefeated. What do you guys got on them?
Yeah, whole new ball game, at least for me. And Tyler, I'll let you take it here in a second. But just moving up to 4A, and they're undefeated this year, and they're coming off back-to-back state championships. So they are definitely going to have a target on their back. But go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I think the thing that stands out, like obviously they're 34-0, right? But in the 2 games that I've seen them, they were pretty close games, and in both matchups they were losing at one point. So they're battle tested. It's also a group that just really didn't have any panic either time they were down when I saw them. And it's an older group. You're going to have that. Obviously, their track record speaks for itself, right? They're going for a 3-peat this year, so it's a group that's been there, done that, which I feel like obviously makes them super dangerous this time of year.
Yeah, they're confident, and they should be, right? So,
yep.
And they're talented and experienced, and that'll be a tough group to beat. They could have a tough matchup here in that second round, the regional championship, just depending on Riverside, Brookfield, Kenwood. Kenwood's got all kinds of talent on that roster. Depending on who takes the ball for them on the mound really dictates how tough and how dangerous they are. But potentially that could be a scare there. And then just going down the list, I feel like there's a lot of tough teams here. You've got Fenwick, which is a Power 25 team for us. I know, Peter has seen Fenwick, and they've got some guys to know there.
They made a super sectional last year, and they brought back most of that team. So there's experience there, and I saw them a couple weeks ago. I like the lineup. It's athletic, dynamic guys, up and down, really no holes. And they got Michael Sosna leading that rotation. And then we got OPRF too.
I think they're sneaky, Peter.
Yeah, no, they are very sneaky. Again, another lineup that can bang. And they got some arms. They got that Luke Gotti kid that I liked. I know he was a bullpen arm for them, and they're kind of transitioning him into a starter role just to see what he can do. And so far, so good. He's been throwing it well for him. And they got Daniel Kane, a big righty that can run it up into the upper 80s. So they got some guys. If it's all clicking at the right time, they'll be very dangerous. And then moving down, we got Lions and Brother Rice. I mean, Lions, they're going to be tough just with the pitching staff that they have. They got Brady Chambers going to Michigan State, Tucker King going to Cincinnati, and Nathan Anderson.
So Nathan Anderson going to John A. Logan as well, talented left-hander that I got to look at in the fall. So would you say, I mean, just looking at Lions, it sounds like pitching is their strength, right? Led by the pitching staff.
Yeah, and I mean their offense is good enough to give them some support too. But a pitching staff like that is such a luxury this time of year to have three guys like that. And depending how it lays out, like I'm sure one of them can come out of the pen if they need to and kind of bridge it that way.
Yep.
And they got some other arms in the bullpen we like. Jake Schumacher, he's a nice little arm for them. They just got guys down the list. You can keep going.
Yeah.
Like they'll just run out another righty throwing 86 to 88, one after another.
Some more dangerous teams in this sectional. You got Brother Rice as a 5 seed. You've got Mount Carmel as a 7 seed. I think both of those teams, they're young. If you look up and down their lineups, they're young. They may be a year or two away. There's a lot of sophomores in that Mount Carmel lineup especially, and I know Brother Rice has their fair share. They have a freshman, Brady Cunningham, who's been playing a lot, and they've got plenty of juniors and sophomores littered throughout their lineup as well. So maybe a year or two away, but certainly teams that could very easily get hot, win a couple games, at least, they're going to be tough teams to beat. And the 3 seed there is Revis. Revis has had a great year. I'm just making sure I have their record right. They're 28-4. We have not seen Revis in person, which does make it tough, and they should be on our list to go see. But great year for them. Definitely a team to watch. I do know we've seen a couple of their guys just randomly at certain events and stuff, but just another sneaky team there to know that could give Lions a little trouble in that side of the bracket if it comes down to that in that sectional. Anything else on that sectional that you guys see? This new Lenox Providence Catholic sectional is kind of a beast. Just going through it, looking at how many good quality teams are on here. Teams that either spent some time in the Power 25 or were teams we talked about. Right at the top, Lincoln Way West. I think we've seen them, a bunch, maybe more than any other team in this sectional. So I'm sure a lot of us could talk on them. Feel free if anybody wants to take it away, but they were playing really, really good baseball for a long, long time there. They were undefeated. Them and Provi were, or not Provi, I'm sorry, them and Nazareth were two of the teams that were probably undefeated the longest. And then they've had a couple tough losses here later in the year, but still certainly a team to know. And yeah, Pete, I see you've got yourself off of mute. So
yeah, I mean Connor Essenberg, he's towards the top of the list for guys I'd want to go win a ball game for me. And it's not just like the compete factor, like his stuff is premium too. So like that combination is just an ultra luxury to have. And he's also one of the best bats in the state. So, I mean, he is kind of their cornerstone on both sides of the ball. I mean, he's been doing it for them all year, and I'm sure, he's going to keep doing his thing in the playoffs. And then Lucas Acevedo, too. He's another arm that they got. He can run up to 90, UIC commit, junior. Good feel for 3 pitches. That's just 2 arms right there that nobody would want to run into. And, they'll go out and shove and,
they're
throw the ball well and
they're the number 1 seed for a reason. Like they're
Yeah.
very complete, I would say. They're one of the more complete teams in the state that I've been able to get my eyes on. I really like their lineup. They don't have a ton of holes. They have plenty of arms, like you were even touching on there. And I mean, just looking at, they're going to get a tough matchup. If they get through Thornwood or Rich Township, they're going to get Sandburg or Marist. And I would imagine Marist is going to have to throw Aiden Flynn against Sandburg to get by him, and Sandburg's probably going to have to throw Nick Bestrick. And I think Nick Bestrick is a name that just needs a little love. He's been awesome for Sandburg all year. He's been the true ace. He's got great numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know he's a guy that we've already plugged into our all-state list that we have going on guys that we need to make sure that we don't miss, because he has been, it seems like every time he takes the ball, Sandburg wins. So that's a really intriguing just first-round matchup with two quality arms that are going to be going at it. And Sandburg's had a good year. And then, you got Lincoln Way Central as the 4 seed. And at the beginning of this podcast, I'm sitting here talking about how hot Lincoln Way Central has been and how they've just been skyrocketing up our Power 25. And they've got Luke Menzik leading the way on the mound. And then they've got Landon Menzik as a position player. And they've got Liam Arsich. And they've got Colin Mowry. And they've got one of the more complete, offenses in the state. I think they're an extremely dangerous group, and I think Tyler might have a couple more things to say on them because he saw them.
Yeah, I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with Lincoln Way Central. It's a team that's hot at the perfect time. We've said it before, I know I have, but this is no better time than now to get hot if you're a high school team. So, really talented group. They're not going to want to be played against by probably every team in this sectional. I mean, this is a team that's beaten West twice this season, so that could be a potential sneaky matchup later on in this sectional that could grab a lot of eyes. I did want to touch on Sandburg real quick.
Yeah.
Special shout out to Nick Bestrick. He committed over the weekend to SWIC, so congratulations to Nick on his commitment. I just wanted to throw that in there because I know we were kind of scratching our heads how he was still uncommitted for so long, so congratulations to him.
Yeah, definitely one of the top 24s that was still out there on the market. Good to hear. Certainly deserves it, and look forward to seeing what he can do down there at SWIC. Right below Lincoln Way Central, like that could be a really, really intriguing, regional championship matchup for a number of different reasons, is Lincoln Way East. So, if it all goes according to the seeding, Lincoln Way Central would face Lincoln Way East in the regional championship. And obviously there's all kinds of rivalry implications, bad blood, guys that play summer ball together, all that stuff, neighboring towns. And Lincoln Way East is no slouch. Like we had them pretty high on our list coming into the year. They've had an up and down year. They've started playing some better baseball towards the end of the season from what we can tell. And they've got Tyler Bell. I mean, they've got a lockdown shortstop who's going to be a tough out in their lineup. One of the best position players in the state. He's got big things maybe coming in July here with the MLB draft, hopefully for him. But they've got Justin Hart, Jack Bauer, Ethan Godlewski's been good for them. They're going to be well coached from, John McCarthy, first year there. And he's going to have them coached up, and I think they'll be a dangerous club. And then right below them, in the other kind of grouping of this sectional, Providence Catholic with the 2 seed. Deservedly so. They've had a great year. And we were talking about this just before this call. Like, they've been a hard one to read. They've had some really, really good weeks where they've kind of skyrocketed up our list. And we're like, man, they might be one of the top, 3 teams in the state. And they got all kinds of offensive firepower with Jackson Smith and Enzo Infelice. And, gosh, I know I'm missing my my left hand, Cooper Eggert. They've got Nolan Gala. They've got a lot of names and a lot of pieces to that lineup. They've got arms, and this last week they go down and Normal Community took care of business against them. So they've been a tough one to read. But I will never bet against a Mark Smith coach team in the playoffs after what they did. a handful of years ago, winning 3 straight titles, something that I didn't know if we would see it again. And then here you go, you've got Joliet Catholic, Edwardsville, and Nazareth all vying for their 3rd straight. But Providence Catholic, certainly a group to know. Joliet West is also down there at the 3 seed, and Andrew's down there. And Andrew is a team we have long talked on about Power 25 ranking and wanting to get them in, and looking through some of their wins and some of their losses. And they've been knocking on the door all year long. So they certainly have some talent on that roster. They've got some left-handed arms in Jack LeConte. I know I'm missing the Jackson Ugo as well, and I could be butchering that last name, so I apologize. But then they've got a deep lineup from what it looks like as well. And Joliet West, speaking of lineups, there may not be a more dangerous group in the playoffs right now in 4A than Joliet West. And man, have they been impressing us. Just going up our list, I'm going to look at our Power 25 rankings, they've gone from 25 to 22 to 13 to 11 to 8 to 7, and now they're up to 5. So they have been the most steady Eddie climbers of any team probably in the state. Kudos to Coach Karch in that group. That's impressive stuff they've got going down there. And Pete, I don't know if you were going to mention anything on that group, but certainly a dangerous team here entering the playoffs.
They've been hitting the heck out of the ball. Don't want to get too vulgar there, but they it seems like just every game they're just pounding the ball and pouring runs on whoever they're playing. And they got a sneaky amount of arms too. I mean, obviously they got Jimmy Anderson, but Ryan Sobin's been having a great year for him too. And then they'll go to James Love to close it out from the pen. So they can swing it and they can pitch it. That's just a team that has been firing on all cylinders lately. And I mean, they're one of my favorites to come out of that sectional for sure.
They were 7-3 towards the beginning of the year, and they are now 26-4. So if my math is correct, that's 19-1 in their last 20 games. I think that kind of says enough right there. Pay attention to Joliet West and don't be surprised, because they are, like, not to just mention they have a really good positional group, but like they're all seniors. Like they are ready. This is the year that they've been building up towards. I think that's 24-1 in their last 25 games. So I think that says enough there. That's impressive stuff for Joliet West. They should be a team to watch, and them being a 3 seed, they've got to be one of the best 3 seeds of any sectional team out there. But that's what I have on that sectional, Gavin.
Yeah, looking at this Bloomington sectional. All right, yeah, and then kind of looking at this Bloomington sectional, I mean, there's a lot of Southern Illinois schools in here. So, Diggs, I'll kind of let you take it and run through it for us a little bit.
Yeah, this sectional right here holds most of the 4A schools here in Southern Illinois, with basically the entire Southwestern Conference finding itself playing in here. You got Edwardsville as the 1 seed, getting a tough draw for a 1 seed. You know, you talked earlier when we were going through 3A schools about Joliet Catholic drawing Henry Brummel. We got Edwardsville, the back-to-back state champs, matching up against Collinsville in the first game. I would almost bet everything I own that Ethan Bagwell will be starting for them. And that's a tough draw for the Tigers. They beat them earlier in the year, 5-4 in a close game at Collinsville. This one will be at Edwardsville. But, man, if Bagwell's on and if he's as good as I saw him against O'Fallon, that is going to be a really tough match. You're talking 94-96. I know for a fact that kid is going to be amped up for that game. You may even see a 97-98 with a banger slider when it's right. Like, they're going to have to battle. And that K-Hoaks team, they're scrappy too, man. The top of their lineup, like, Chris Alcorn's a really good hitter. Carter Harrington, Bryce Lemp. It will not be an easy draw for Edwardsville. And then on the other side of that, you got Connor Blue and Tommy Kramkowski matching up on Thursday. O'Fallon versus Belleville East, 2 power arms, 2 of the top 20-25 arms in the state getting after it. Like, those are sectional championship type of matchups that are taking place in the first round of regionals. So whoever makes it out of there and keeps rolling, they're going to earn it for sure. And then, not to be forgotten, I really like this Belleville West team. They are blue collar. They play the game hard. They do not have a superstar, but it's just a bunch of guys that band together. Jake Stedman leading the way for them, a senior heading to Moberly Community College next year. It's going to be a tough regional, and that's only on one side of it. Like Gav, I'll throw this over to you to touch on Normal Community and Minooka, but this is going to be a gauntlet to get out of.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Normal Community, we had just mentioned that they beat Provi last week, 11-1. They had Ethan Eberly on the mound in that game, and then Brady Bengtson came in relief. I mean, man, Community is loaded with arms. Jonah Roper, Bengtson, Eberly. Anytime, I mean, Eberly is the past 2 years just been dominant anytime that he pitches. I think last year, I want to say he gave up maybe one earned run on the entire year, and this year I can't imagine he's given up too many. I know that the games that I've seen him pitch in, he's been dominant. He hasn't given up a ton of runs. He strikes kids out. It's a lot of swing and miss. And then at the plate, I mean, they have a really good lineup too. They've got Kyle Beatty playing shortstop. He's their leadoff guy. He's a really athletic kid, a really good quarterback for them as well. Riley Hendren's going to Augustana. Caleb Hackman's going to Augustana. Ryan Thiel's going to Augustana, and they're all they're all seniors. They're talented. They've been here before. They've done it before. But yeah, and then I mean they got a guy I just saw the other day, Dexter Niekamp. He is committed to play football at Illinois State, but he's a left-handed hitter. He's strong, powerful kid. He was also playing in the state championship for basketball for them. He was a starter. So I mean they just have a really talented lineup. A lot of athletes. I mean, they've been good in football this year. They've been good in basketball this year. And, I mean, baseball looks no different. So Community is going to be a really tough team to face. And, I mean, we have them up to number 6 now in this updated Power 25. But moving down to Minooka, I haven't seen them personally. I know you guys have kind of gotten a few looks at them. But, I mean, to me, Nate George is a big one that stands out, and Braden Zellis for sure.
Yeah, those are a couple names. I'm sure Pete will have a few more names as well. CJ DeKinga's in there, Ryan Anderson, Carter Lennington, a catcher. They're one of the more balanced teams that I know of, both sides of the ball, and I haven't seen them in person this year, so Peter, feel free to add on anything.
Yeah, no, Ryan Anderson, Braden Zellis, 1-2 punch, both really good arms. Braden Zellis can swing the bat for him too. I actually really, really like him at shortstop. And then Nate George. I mean, he's been having a heck of a year. His name is probably going to be thrown around a little bit for potential draft purposes this coming summer. Just a super dynamic athlete, has power, can really run, great defender. And then, yeah, Carter Lennington, good backstop. They just got guys down that lineup, really no holes, and I like them a lot.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really stands out with this sectional from top to bottom is just the amount of quality arms that all of the teams have. Like you're talking Edwardsville, their pitching staff is loaded. O'Fallon's pitching staff is very deep, and they have a really, really good 1-2 punch in Connor Blue and David Barker. Collinsville, obviously Ethan Bagwell, but behind him you got Chris Alcorn and Bryce Lemp, 2 left-handed arms that are throwing the ball well for them with good stuff. Belleville East, Tommy Kramkowski and left-hander Tyreka, who's going to Kaskaskia. That's a good 1-2 punch. Obviously, we touched on Normal Community and their stable of arms, and then Minooka too. Like, pitching wins in the playoffs, man, and whoever gets out of here is going to really set themselves up nicely for the rest of the playoffs with how deep their arms are. They're going to be able to shut anybody down on any given day. They all have a frontline guy. So,
Gavin, I'm going to keep us kind of moving through the sectionals here because there's a lot of them at the 4A. This Plainfield North sectional leading the way is Downers Grove North. We've talked a lot about some good offenses. I think you can throw Downers Grove North right there in that mix. Even with losing a George Wolkow and an Ian Check from last year's roster, they are seemingly just as good 1 through 9. You got Jimmy Janicki leading the way behind the plate, hitting the middle of the order. Jude Warwick's right there with them. Plays a really good shortstop and hits at the top of their order. Left-handed bat that sprays it around the yard. Brady Shalemoser's, he's a bat that we all really, really like. He's one of the better left-handed bats in the class, especially that's still on the market in that 2025 class. So he's a name to know there. Russell Oros is another guy. You got Noah, Joe Horatio. JD Cumby's been hitting for them as well. He's a guy I'm not as familiar with, Pete, but anything else on Downers Grove North?
Yeah, they got some arms that I like. The Braden Tomlinson kid that I saw throw against Lincoln Way West. He's a lefty that can run it into the low 80s. Pretty easy, pretty clean. Ben Llewellyn's their ace. He's going to Minnesota State. He's an arm we've liked a lot. He can run it up into the upper 80s. And then Zach Zaroli is another one, just another lefty arm that can run it into the low mid 80s. So yeah, I mean they got enough pitching to where their bats will obviously carry, but they got enough on the mound to keep them in games, and I think they're set up pretty good for this playoff run.
A lot of interesting teams in this sectional. Not a ton of like, holy cow, these guys are, power 25 teams all throughout the sectional, but a lot of teams that I could see making runs here. Lockport's a 4 seed. They're a tough squad with all kinds of depth. One other team that I'm seeing Yorkville, Cameron Yearsley has been one of the most potent left-handed bats in all the state this spring, just hitting double-digit home runs, having a really, really good year for Yorkville. They also have Nate Harris. They've got Simon Skroke as well. Just some guys to know there. Neuqua Valley, just if I were to just say like past history and who I could see, making a run, is they're always well coached. They're always a solid, tough group. I would just say you never can discount an Neuqua Valley squad there with Coach Thornton. The 2 seed to me was a little intriguing here with Waubonsie Valley. I know, we have not seen them that I know of. That could be a sneaky group. I know that Owen Roberts has been good for them. A junior, but 2 freshmen just to know on Waubonsie Valley that have been performing on varsity as of late is Cole Ruggieri, an arm, and then you've got a catcher named Shane Torres, has been up on varsity for Waubonsie Valley. So, I'm 100%. There's definitely, more names to know and other guys that I'm failing to mention there. But Waubonsie Valley, a 2 seed to know, and Peter, you just saw Oswego. They're matched up against Hinsdale Central. That's somewhat of an intriguing first-round matchup, but the shortstop for Oswego's a name that we've been high on all spring.
Yeah, Cameron Jenkins, definitely one of the premier 2026 shortstops in the state. 3-sport athlete, football, I believe basketball, and obviously baseball. I mean, he's a shortstop. Really love the way he moves around the field. He's an ultra athlete. Like, just everything's so easy for him. And he can really swing too. And that lineup, I got to see them down at the Kickoff Classic. They are not to be slept on. They got some pop in that lineup. And if they get enough pitching, that feels like that's the theme. If they get enough pitching, they'll be just fine. But yeah, Oswego is a team to not be slept on for sure.
And just moving down, Downers Grove South got the 3 seed. And, they seem to be playing their best baseball at the right time. They were a team that we were tossing around for Power 25. They're 25-6-1. They've got a really good outfield, just with 2 names that I know, Jalen House and Wyatt Warrow. 2 left-handed bats that can go get it. Wyatt Warrow, to me, is one of the best bat-to-ball left-handed bats in the class. He's a 2025 that's still on the market. He was a future gamer last summer. And then Plainfield North, Naperville North at the bottom of that bracket. I just got to throw Naperville North in there, give my alma mater a little love. But Zach Bava behind the plates had a big year, left-handed bat, and they could be sneaky down there with Coach Capetta. Chapetta leading the way, coaching that squad up. Gavin, I was able to get out to a game this Friday. I was able to see Brother Rice and St. Lawrence in a Do It Stevie's Way matchup, and got to see just a brief look at Mount Carmel versus St. Lawrence right after. But I was really impressed with St. Lawrence, and I know Peter's seen them. We've gotten a couple looks at them. I saw Joe Olson, the lefty, going to Louisville Junior once again. Same guy, 87-90, really competed, breaking ball, goes right after hitters, really competitive look to him. Was really tough throughout. He started his last inning, the 6th inning, he got the command left him a little bit, got the bases loaded, but he was able to work out of it. and I thought he put together a really, really impressive performance. But I really liked St. Lawrence's lineup just up and down. I think they're going to be a tough team to match up with in the playoffs because I think they can score in a number of different ways. They've got a lot of speed. You got Jamison Martin, who's a really good bat-to-ball guy who led off for them. He just continues to do it. He plays a good shortstop and takes consistent competitive at-bats every time I see him. Outside of him, hitting in the 2-hole is left-handed hitter Evan Less, who's going to Illinois Wesleyan as a two-sport athlete. He's a football player, baseball player. He was just DHing in this game, but he is tough. He is a bat-to-ball left-handed hitter who uses his speed, and he lined a ball into the left center gap in his first at bat for a double, and then proceeds to get a great dirt ball read from second base to get to third base. Later scores on a single. He probably would have scored from second base anyway, but to me the dirt ball read was really impressive. Worked a walk and scored later on in his third at bat, and then was hit by a pitch. Just seems like he's going to be a nuisance. Stands in there with a lot of confidence. Doesn't try to do too much. And a very similar profile, but from the right side, is Daniel Coyle, a sophomore who plays third base for him. And we were talking about him before this call as well. Like, for my money, he's one of the better bat to ball hitters in the state. And as a sophomore, he's only struck out 2 times all spring. The power's not, anything to write home about right now. But just being a tough out, being able to use the entire field, covering the whole plate, 0 swing and miss. Like, I don't think the guy swing and misses. And I guarantee you now I jinxed him, and he'll probably swing and miss his very first pitch next at bat. But just has really impressed me with the bat to ball skills. Then they've got Matthew Carano, physical right-handed hitter. It's in their 4-hole catcher. I mean, I saw him walk 3 times and line out to shortstop, so not my greatest look at him. Corey Less hits in their 5-hole. Sophomore, plays center field, and he stood out for me for a number of reasons. The present physicality is there. For a sophomore, he really fills out the uniform. The fact that he plays center field and can go track it down in the outfield. I saw him have to go, make a couple of plays, and he looked natural in the outfield, just tracking fly balls. I saw him make a really good, strong throw on the bag to third base from center field. If he can stick in center with that frame, that is going to be a huge boost to just his overall profile. He's a left-handed bat. He gets super spread out in the box. It's from, end line to end line of that batter's box. And even gets more spread out with 2 strikes, but there is very minimal pre-pitch movement. He stays extremely balanced. Sometimes some of those super wide setup guys can get kind of almost out of their base because they're too wide, but he doesn't. Like, he stays very much so in his base, low center of gravity, kind of like his brother Evan. Just, he's a tough out. I mean, he was battling in every at bat. There was not a lot of swing and miss. He was using the whole field. He was really, really shortening it up and not trying to do too much with 2 strikes. He was using the whole field. And the one thing that got me with him offensively, and when the ball comes off the bat, it comes off the bat loud and hard. He was even fouling balls off hard. I think he's going to be a really, really tough out. He's going to have some gap-to-gap doubles power. It's an athletic, strong sophomore that hits left-handed, and I know I've talked about him a lot, but I had him 4.44 down the line on a ground out. I had him 4.63 where he pulled up towards the end. He flew out to center field. It was dropped. It was an E8, and then he hit a hard ground ball back up the middle for a single, and then proceeded to steal a base. So, he runs the bases. He can go get it in center. There's a lot to like there. Geary plays second base, hits in their 6-hole. You've got Ryan Seddon, an Evansville commit, hitting in their 7-hole, left-handed hitter with a really athletic frame. He took nothing but good swings all night. I mean, on plane, really fluid. I mean, that guy hitting in your 7-hole, like that is one of the biggest luxuries I've seen in a high school lineup here in a while. Perez hitting the 8-hole, didn't do much on this game, but did have a loud ground out to second, also walked. Jonathan Medina, like this, Coach Lotus does a great job just managing his lineups, how he maps out his lineups, going from righty, lefty, down through, like getting a good mixture there, but with speed and power and speed and power. And then he's got kind of that second leadoff hitter here at the 9-hole, and Jonathan Medina, a junior, plays left field, left-handed hitter, had a quality single in his first at bat, RBI single, and then stole a base, scored a run in his first at bat. They're tough. They're going to be well coached. They're not going to make a ton of mistakes. They're going to do it on the infield. And I know I'm going on here. But I think they kind of deserved it. They're our number 3 team in the Power 25. I think they're a 3A team the 3A team to beat this year in the playoffs. And they matched up against Brother Rice through Brady Cunningham, a freshman. I think he's going to be really good on the mound one day. Didn't have a ton of takeaways from this, outing. He was showing a fastball at 83. It plays pretty straight. Would like to see just a little bit of something that he could create there, whether it's a little more tilt on the fastball or just a little bit of run to get off the barrel. But had feel for a breaking ball that he was throwing. Really, really physical for a freshman, fills out the uniform. I think he's going to be a good one. And he also does impact their lineup there at Brother Rice. He just didn't on this day. Jackson Natanic, to me, I thought he was playing shortstop on this look. They had Gavin Triesenberg play third. They have the luxury to move their infielders around with Aiden Ohava, who plays third base, first base. And Ohava was playing first in this look. So Natanic made a number of good plays at shortstop. A couple line drives that weren't the easiest plays with some topspin going into the 6-hole that he kind of just had to stay with for a long time. A ball up the middle, and he does a really good job of his internal clock, and he knows when he needs to use his arm, and he's got plenty of arm strength. Like, he's really good on the mound for them as well. But just going up the middle, being able to, change platforms with his arm. And it was such a quick, fluid release right on the bag, knows the runner. Just another good look at Jackson Natanic there. He's going to Illinois State. Gavin Triesenberg had a hard line out to right in his first at bat, singled to center field in his last at bat, walked in there. He's a good baseball player. Good baseball player, continues to get stronger. Foot speed continues to tick up. Takes quality at bats. They're just young. Really like their team, but they're young. I think they're going to be a team to watch here in the future. A couple other guys to note, but nothing super groundbreaking from this game. Mount Carmel, like I said, I got to briefly see them, but they were starting Connor Elenteni, a sophomore. Uncommitted arm for them, long athletic frame, really loose bodied, and just saw his first inning of work. Command was spotty, especially when he got out of the stretch. He lost the control of the fastball a little bit, but I really like the way that everything works. To me, it almost looked like he needs a little confidence booster. He was a little unsure of himself. It looked like maybe he was even aiming it at times. But he doesn't need to, because the stuff is so good. Like, just his natural raw stuff is really good. He was playing catch at 88, and it was coming out easy. He gets this late run and ride to the fastball. He threw one fastball in on a righty, and it handcuffed him and almost hit him in the knuckle, and the guy swung at it. Just kind of speaking to that action the fastball gets. He was showing action on the breaking ball, was not harnessing it, like was not throwing it for a strike in this look, but the action is there, the stuff is there. And I would love for him to just have a little different demeanor on the mound, and just a little more confidence in him, because, man, for a sophomore, he's got as good a stuff as you could ask for. The clay is all there, and I am in on that clay, and I cannot wait to see what it gets molded into one day, because there's so much upside in him. TJ McQuillan was back in that lineup. Took some vicious swings, tons of bat speed. It was on a different level. The bat speed was on a completely different level than a lot of the other guys I was watching, which to me spoke volumes, especially with him being a sophomore. So just like two takeaways there for Mount Carmel. I got to see a brief look at John Strakowski, righty for St. Laurence, that I really like, a sophomore. Velo is 83, but I love the way it works. 3 pitches. He's a strike thrower, although he was kind of battling himself a little bit in that first inning and was able to work out of it. Made some huge pitches with the bases loaded to get out of that inning. But that's what I had on that game, Gavin. I appreciate you letting me really get in there on those teams, and I'll let you guys get back to it.
And speaking of pitching, if you like pitching and if you like Fox Valley baseball, then the Hampshire sectional is going to be right up your alley. I may be speaking to Diego Solares on this call, but right off the bat, you got McHenry. We've talked a lot about him, but you got Brandon Shannon, Bryson Elbrecht, and Ken Wisniewski on the mound. Then with Hampshire, you got Kalen Scheider, Anthony Karbowski, and Wilson Wemhoff as well. So those teams right off the bat have a really potent 1-2-3 punch. So then just moving down, you also got Huntley in here, who we've been high on all year. Drew Borkowski and Malachi Paplanis are the 2 arms for them. They've also got a very talented lineup. AJ Putty is, I feel like every other week he's hitting 2 or 3 bombs. So just some teams right off the bat there that are jumping off the page for me in this sectional.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Looking at the St. Charles sectional, I know Pete's seen a good chunk of these teams in here. So Pete, you want to take us through these teams and these matchups?
Yeah, St. Charles North. I saw them not too long ago. We got them in the Power 25. Really solid offensive team, just top to bottom. They got Keaton Reinke, sophomore, at top of that rotation. They just got athletes up and down. I like them a lot. I think they'll be a tough out. Lake Park, very, very senior heavy. I don't even know how many senior commits they have. It's definitely double digits. It's one of the more impressive, like, all around top to bottom lineups I think I've ever seen in my time doing this, just with the amount of like college depth they have. So I really like them, both sides of the ball. Willowbrook, sneaky good team. Joey Crocker, even sophomore Bobby Biggs, he can pitch for them. York, we had them in the Power 25, and they were in the discussion for this week too. I mean, Ryan Sloan, you knew that was coming. Anytime he takes the ball, they got to feel really, really, really good about their chances. And then St. Charles East, they got Joey Aaron. They made a nice little run last year, so they got some experience in the postseason. Just another team that adds depth to this sectional. And then actually, we can move down to the Lane sectional. It looks like we got New Trier up here. I just got a good look at them. I'll go through my game story for them in a little bit. We got them at number 2. They're on a crazy win streak right now. Coach Napoleon, I mean, one of the best to ever do it. Coming up on 1,000 wins, I heard. He was 4 away from 1,000, and then they won the game I was at. So my math, if it checks out, he's 3 away. So when you got a coach like that, that's been there and done that, and just the way he controls his club, they're going to be a very tough out. That lineup, top to bottom, they got Trey Myers, Ben Toft. There's a lot of guys that we like. Declan Spinner, and they got depth on the mound too. They got Max Kaplan. Even Spinner can pitch a little bit for him too. But that is just a very talented club, very well coached. And then, do you guys have anything on Glenbrook North? That's a team that stands out to me.
No, absolutely. I think to me, I got to see them play Mundelein last week, and I'll touch on that later. But this to me would be the sneaky team in this sectional. There is talent all over the field for Glenbrook North. You got Chase Peterson in center field, who hits at the top of the order, can hit for power, cover ground out in center field. You also got Ethan Bass, who's the top-ranked sophomore for us here in Illinois, who plays shortstop, can really pick it. So he also pitches for him too. He can run up to the mid-upper 80s with his fastball. So Glenbrook North to me is definitely a sneaky team in this sectional to watch out for.
Yeah, and then kind of looking at the Lincolnshire sectional too. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in there. You know, Stevenson, Mundelein, Libertyville, Hersey, Conant, and Highland Park.
Yeah, so this Lincolnshire sectional, yeah, a ton of good teams, like you said. I'll start from the top, just how we have it listed. Stevenson, I saw them twice in the past week. Very young club. I mean, realistically, they're probably a year away from where they, from where they want to be, just with the amount of sophomores they have. But they're still very talented. If they're hot, they can do a lot of damage for sure. Mundelein's a team that's been doing really well. That's a dangerous team, just with the history they've had in the playoffs recently.
With Mundelein, similar to what you said about Stevenson, like truthfully, they might be a year away. There's a lot of sophomores and juniors up and down that lineup. So, we'll see. But they're a team, after I watched them last week, I really wouldn't be surprised if they, knock off a few teams in the sectional.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving down to prospect, I mean, Matthew Jackson, he's a guy that we've liked, and it just seems like there's a lot of guys that pop. Specifically this past winter, there's been some prospect kids that popped.
Yeah, Lawton Joyce will lead the way for that staff. Uncommitted senior still, from what I know, and all indications have been pointing that his velo just continues to climb. He's been an upper 80s guy for us in the past with a pretty good breaking ball, but I've been hearing low 90s, and so they do have an ace there at prospect.
Absolutely. And then Libertyville, we got them in the Power 25 still. Got a good look at them recently, actually a couple times this year. I mean, they got Josh Holst on the mound, Chase Lockwood, and their offense is pretty potent too with Quinn Shambo. He's also leading that staff behind the plate. I mean, he's one of the premier catchers in the state, regardless of class. Can really swing it, can really catch. Hold on, I'm gonna have to edit this in front. I'm blanking. Okay. And then the Lockwood brothers, Cole and Chase, they can both swing it. Like I said, Chase can pitch it, but Cole's going to Valpo. Nice little shortstop. He's kind of a spark plug in that lineup. And then Holst can swing it too. Ryan Wilberding. They just got a lot of guys that we like. And then Highland Park, they got off to one of the better starts in the year. They're led by Luke Weber on the mound. So just, when you got a frontline guy like that at the top of your rotation, you feel good going into any playoff series, really. And they got some offense too, where they can put together some good games and then, who knows, make a good run down the stretch. And then moving down to Hersey, they got kind of a three-headed monster over there too. They got Jeremy Allen going to Kansas. They got Keegan Luxem, an uncommitted right-hander junior. He's a really good pitcher. And then Lincoln Cosero, he kind of blew up over the winter, running it into the low 90s. So, three-headed monster there. You feel good, really giving any of those guys the ball. So, and then moving on to Conant, I got a good look at them earlier in the year. Just a dynamic lineup. A lot of two-sport guys, football players, really good-looking frames. And that's just a team, they passed the eye test and they really didn't make any mistakes. They could swing it. And yeah, they're just a team that I like going into this. I just got a good feeling about them.
But yeah, kind of looking at some game recaps now. As always, we've seen a lot in the past week. For me, I got to see Normal Community and Providence Catholic on last Friday night at Illinois Wesleyan. Power 25 matchup. Ethan Eberly started for Community and through 3 innings, and he was just doing what Ethan Eberly does. A lot of strikes, a lot of strikeouts. I think he threw 3 innings, 6 strikeouts. Went through that really talented Provi lineup with ease. Mixing pitches well, breaking balls, still really good pitch, wipeout pitch, a lot of swing and miss. He throws a slider and a curveball. And then I got to see Caston Gobert too for Provi, who's a uncommitted 2025 for them. He was up to 87, I believe, and he's a really wiry build, which is a really intriguing build too, because he's one that can obviously still add weight with what he's got going right now. High waisted, long levers, moves pretty well. It's a short, compact arm, and it's quick out front. And then another guy that I saw, and I might botch the name here, it's Declan Keemsick. He was an uncommitted 2025 for Pravi as well, who came in relief. Just really intriguing the way he moved. It's a long, loose arm. Not a ton of strikes, didn't fill up the zone, but he was, mid 80s with his fastball and was up to 86. Just a interesting name that I had not personally heard of, and I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard of him or seen him, but we didn't have a ton of information on him in his profile. So it was good to get a look at Declan there. And then I got to see normal U High and Tremont earlier in the week in a regional semifinal game. And again, Max Heineman for U High just continued to do well. He's doing his thing at the plate, really mature approach. And then for Tremont, Griffin Meeker started at second base. He's an athletic kid. His frame is continuing to get better. He looks stronger than the last time I saw him. Athletic kid, moves well at second base. At the plate, kind of a fluid load. The path looks a little better than it did in the past. And then Brady Booth, another really athletic kid for that team. He plays shortstop. I thought he moved really well. Fluid, footwork, soft hands, makes the right play. Clean double play turn in IO. Good arm across the diamond. It looks right for Booth there. And then Andrew Dawson started on the mound for Tremont. He was up to 89. He was mostly upper 80s with his fastball, and then he threw a cutter most of the time. It was like 78 to 81 ish, and it had cut to it, but it was kind of getting hit around a little bit. Wasn't spinning it the best. His curveball, I mean, it's still it's kind of a developing field, not a ton of movement on it, but really intriguing. It's a pretty athletic mover. He's got a really quick arm, and it doesn't look like he's using a ton of effort to get it up to 89, but good look at, he's a 2026. So good look at Dawson there. And I mean, Tremont, they didn't have a great season, to be honest with you, but they have a talented roster. And I think next year, once those guys have, they had another year of experience here, and then they're going to move up. And I mean, it's a lot of sophomores and juniors in that lineup this year. So we'll be curious to see how they do next year. And I mean, they got a lot of talent on their team.
Yeah, Gavin. I actually I got out and saw Libertyville and Stevenson. I got a really good look at Josh Holst. He started. We brought him to the future games last summer. He's going to Air Force. Left-hander. He was sitting 84 to 88. Heavy dose of fastballs. Really didn't need anything else, and he would go to a breaking ball around 66 to 69. I believe he had 14 strikeouts in about 5 innings, so missing a lot of barrels with just the fastball. Love to see that. And then Quinton Chambo, got a really good look at him. Like I said earlier, can really catch. His arm, one of the stronger arms in the state. Nobody really wants to run on that kid, and it's pretty apparent why. But he can really stick the ball behind the plate too. Really good receive. Then he took a 3-0 fastball opposite field off the scoreboard. So he's, physical right-handed bat, continues to show well for us. Ryan Wilberding, freshman, just continue to look the part as a premier right-handed bat in that class. Really good at bats. Love the way that kid looks in the box. And then Stevenson, Frank Costable. He came out of the pen, sat 88-90. He's only a sophomore. 88-90. Really good slider at 81 to 83. Super easy. I mean, he's got premier arm strength. He was up to 98 miles an hour from a crow hop over the winter. So, I mean, that indicates that there's a lot more in the tank there. And just the ease of his operation, like, you can just tell the kid's going to just keep throwing harder with how easy it is. And he can swing it too. He's got some pop going the other way, right-handed hitter. Aiden Crawley, sophomore shortstop. Really like the way that kid moves around shortstop. Looks the part in the box. He's a kid that I think is going to develop into a nice little player moving forward. And then Brandon Schultz. He's a center fielder, senior going to EIU. I love watching that kid play. High motor, high motor. Can really go get it in the outfield. I saw Stevenson twice this week. I saw him against Libertyville, and I saw them against New Trier. And he had at least 2 or 3 diving catches, just like running across the country and going and getting balls in the gaps. Like, I love the way that kid plays the game. And he's got a nice left-handed swing. It's short to the ball. It's flat through the zone. It's on time. I think that kid's going to do really well. I think EIU is a great spot for him. And then moving on to the New Trier and Stevenson game, I saw Max Kaplan for New Trier. South Carolina upstate commit. He was 80 to 82. I think he can really pitch. It's 3 pitches for strikes. The breaking ball was in the mid 60s with big action, sharp action, missing barrels. And then the changeup was kind of his go-to. Really good feel for it. Not afraid to use it in any count. It fades. He sells it with his arm action. It's about 69 to 71 miles an hour. And then Declan Spinner, he's one of their main bats in the lineup too. He'll hit kind of in the middle of that order. And he came out and closed it. He was up to 83 and ripping off a really good breaking ball around 73 to 75. So that's just another nice arm they got. And then James Novakovic, senior going to Purdue, he had 3 barrels on the day. He can really swing it, and I liked his actions at shortstop too. So they're just really solid up the middle over at New Trier. And then for Stevenson in this look, I got Andrew Langerman, 2025 lefty. He was 80 to 82, super clean arm. It kind of has some cut and some tilt on it. And he had a good little breaking ball in the upper 60s and a nice changeup in the mid 70s. Brandon Schultz doing the same thing, really good defensively. Costable could swing it. And then Crawley, same thing. He actually had some better at-bats in this look. Same actions at shortstop. I really think he can defend. And then he can cover the plate, too. He took a fastball in the outer half the other way for a single. So, the bat continues to trend up for him, only a sophomore. So I got a good feeling about that kid as he continues to go throughout high school.
Yeah, and then the first game I saw last week was Glenbrook North at Mundelein. Touched on it a little bit earlier, but who really stood out for me on the Mundelein side of things was Bears Brua. He's a big physical lefty. He's every bit of 6'5", 215. He got the start for the Mustangs. Gave them 6 strong innings. He's 81 to 83 with the fastball. His slider was his out pitch in this look. It's 75 to 76. Got some real downer movement with some late bite. And he was getting both lefties and righties to chase it for swing and miss. So that's just a guy to keep following there for Mundelein. Chase Peterson on the Glenbrook North side. Physical right-handed hitter. He's got a ton of present strength throughout his frame. Hit a solo homer his first at bat. That he got every bit of. And then the very next half inning, he made a super impressive diving play out in center field. Just continue to show his athleticism throughout the game. He had a bunt single later on in the game in a big spot. So just kind of a do-it-all player for the Spartans there at Glenbrook North. And then Dean Miller got the start for Glenbrook North, and this is a kid we had nothing on. I also couldn't find anything on Google on the kid. I had to go, interrogate their coach about who the kid was because we knew nothing on him. But he's a long, lanky sophomore, right-handed arm. He was 80 to 83 with sink. Had feel to spin a slider. He really impressed me with just how he competed in the zone. He was throwing a ton of strikes, pitching to contact, and really just trusting his stuff in the zone against a pretty good lineup. So that's a guy we'll keep following, and hopefully we'll have more and more information on him throughout his high school career. But also Ethan Bass for Glenbrook North, touched on it earlier, but he's a top-ranked kid in the Illinois 2026 class, going to Illinois, can really pick it up the middle, was making really every play look easy at shortstop. And then for Mundelein, again, their shortstop and second base combo of Nick Zaloni at short and Johnny Weiss at second, it's maybe one of the better just pure defensive duos I've seen all spring. Johnny Weiss was making every single play at second base. He was getting bad hops, good hops. To end the game, he made a play deep in the 3.5 hole between first and second base. Did a full, 360 spin, got the final out of the game in a big spot. Glenbrook North brought the winning or the go-ahead run up to the plate. So to get him, that was a big spot for them. But those are Zaloni's a junior and Weiss is a sophomore, so they're going to have those guys for next year too. So just some names to tuck away moving forward for Mundelein. But then on Friday, I had a marathon 10-inning game between Willowbrook and number 6 at the time Lincoln Way West, and Willowbrook pulled off the win. this was kind of a back and forth game to start out. And then Willowbrook erupted for a 7-run inning. They were leading 9-3 at one time. But to Lincoln Way West credit, they didn't back down. They fought all the way back, tied it in the bottom of the 6th. They went scoreless through the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then Troy Wisner came off the bench for Willowbrook and delivered the winning blow for Willowbrook with a base hit into left to score a run. So Willowbrook ended up winning 10-9. Vince Aiello and Ryan Bannon for Willowbrook really led the way offensively. Aiello had 3 hits. Bannon had 2 doubles. It just seemed like those two came up continuously in big spots in the game and just continued to deliver. And then for Lincoln Way West, Anthony Massa had a 5-hit day. Was just all over the barrel. Just time after time was coming up big for his team. He's a senior going to Wisconsin Platteville, and then the beat continues to roll for Connor Essenberg, just another 2-hit day for him. So that's all I really had from that game, but huge win for Willowbrook.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks, Tyler, and him and everyone else. That was another episode here of the IHSA podcast. I'm excited to get into this 3A, 4A bracket, and I know 1A, 2A is still going on right now, so I'm just excited to see how it all plays out and who we see at Dozer Park for 1A, 2A, and up in Joliet for 3A, 4A. So appreciate you guys hopping on, and we'll see y'all next time.